I'd just like to start off and say thank you so much to everybody who gets in touch and spends a lot of time in front of their computer emailing me and sending me messages and news reports, video clips, and of course your own opinions and reactions to the comments and things on, or rather the videos on YouTube. And often you find that your comments disappear. Let me just say firstly on that note that if you put a link in a comment and you link to something, the chances are it will get removed. I don't know why that is, but I found that all people who put links in gets removed. Sometimes they come into an area that I have to approve, and I do approve all of them, even those comments which say bad things about me and people who don't like me but still comment. I approve them. I try to keep as much free speech going on as possible, but sometimes others just mysteriously disappear and I don't know why that is. So there's that. As far as the emails, I do try to read them all, but I can't reply to everyone, I'm afraid. If you go away for a couple of days, you come back and there's hundreds of them, and it's very difficult. So it's a bit like Vision On. I don't know if you remember that programme here in the UK in the 1970s. We had a programme called Vision On. It was an art programme with Tony Hart and a lady called Pat Kiesel. And she used to do a bit of sign language. And she would always say, "Thank you for sending in your paintings, but I'm really sorry, we cannot return them." And whether they took them out the back and burnt them, I don't know, or just ditched them. But obviously to put a stamped envelope and post them back would have cost an absolute fortune for the BBC on a children's programme, so they didn't. My time is so busy with a number of different things, trying to do my own research, reading some of the books that people send me, looking at links and things that just, and of course creating content and getting people to come along and be on the show as guests in the other department of the show. I can't just read all and answer all of the emails, so apologies for that. I'd just like to say this from time to time. I don't want to go on about it. The other thing is, of course, thank you so much for all the wonderful donations that people send in. It's very much appreciated, and it does keep helping the channel go and helps put diesel in the car. You don't always see it, but often Julia and I will whiz off and try and see people in person or go to meetings, as we did yesterday, which was 4 hours away, and we had a meeting. In fact, I had 2 different meetings, and then we had to come 4 hours back. So that's, you know, about 80 quid's worth of diesel, and nothing was made out of it in terms of money or anything, but lots of interesting stuff for the channel coming forward is there. So it all really does help. Now, you'll see by the thumbnail that I want to talk about the flat earth, but this isn't quite the flat earth that you think I'm talking about. At least maybe it's the inspiration for the flat earth, I don't know. But I'm going to have a guest on the show who's going to talk about his version of the flat earth, because it seems to me lots of people have different versions of what that means and whether you're open to it or not. But just bear with me. Now, a book was sent to me called Putting a Stopper in the hang on, it's all in code, you see, you've got to break the code even in the title. Putting a Stopper in the Bottle of Death and the Occult. It's a great book, and if you haven't read it, thoroughly recommend it. It's by Gary of the House of Frawn, at least I think that's how you pronounce it. So I'll put a link in the description anyway to this particular book. And there's a section in here, and it's talking about the way that we're deceived in many different ways in this world, and sort of the occult, things that have been hidden from us. It's a fascinating book, and thank you to the viewer who sent it in. It's really interesting. So this is a section called The Earth is Flat. Now, let's see what they mean by this. So this is a period about 700, 800,000 years ago, when the Vatican was really getting going and putting down its, well, feeding out its tentacles really across the world and trying to capture not only our hearts and minds, but also our souls and body, and owning us in order, it seems to me, to A, make money, and B, to be able to indoctrinate us, which through its methods, it does seem to have done very well. So it says here the church, and of course it had these the Pope released these, what would they be called? dictats, I suppose. They were known as papal bulls. They were sort of laws that they were creating, what they call law, not what I would call law as in natural law, but they were creating their own, effectively, version of legislation, if you like. And so the church during this time created these papal bulls, decided that they needed to have a flat earth system. Now that sounds a bit barking, doesn't it? But this bore out the four-corner rule. And in 1306, Rome declared to everybody that the earth is flat. Humans, you see, are three-dimensional creatures, but the church needed everyone to be two-dimensional in order to represent humans on paper, to be registered. Now that's a very important bit, and it sort of just talks about that and then moves on to something very simple elsewhere. But this business about being on paper, putting humans on paper and then registering them is the most important part about this. With this decree, they created the term all four corners of the earth. It created the idea that humans could be placed on paper, and the idea of a birth certificate was born. The four-corner rule was the basis of signing documents within the four corners of a box of a document. Inside the box, i.e. your coffin, as mentioned later in the book, and he does go and talk about that later on. Now, this is the thing about turning living men and women. You are a living man or a living woman. You have blood gushing through your veins, and your flesh is alive. You're not a two-dimensional creature. You are a three-dimensional creature. You are a human, or a human being, if you like. You are a spirit, probably better described, inside this body of flesh and blood. You are a man or a woman. But the church at that time, as it said, needed a flat world, paper, because they used to do so much of their documents by paper, as we do now. Everything is done on paper. Legislation is all about getting the jurisdiction. So they get you to register and give away effectively your title, your ownership, if you like, the sense of belonging to things is given away when you register something. And we know that when we register a brand new car that we've just bought, and the car salesman, oh, would you like me to register it so you can get your license and your insurance and your MOT and all these things? And you go, oh, thank you very much, that's very kind of you. And effectively what's going on there is you've bought this car, you've spent a lot of money, and in theory you'd think you would own it, wouldn't you? But no, you don't own it, because you didn't actually make it yourself, and you didn't get the certificate of manufacture either. That's actually given to the government, so that or it's kept with the manufacturer. I forget which one it is, but you don't get it, which actually proves it's yours. So then they say, well, would you like us to register it? And you go, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, please, thanks. And so what they do is they register it, and you get that logbook back, and it says you're the registered keeper. At one point, it was you are the registered owner, but you're now just the registered keeper. You've given away the title of ownership of that device, whatever it is, you know, the car. And we know that. And then you are registered so that you can get one of these. Now, mine is very, very old. You probably got one with a photograph on it. But this is, believe it or not, this tatty bit of paper held together with sellotape that's also frayed is my driving licence. I haven't moved from my house for so long, I haven't needed to update this. And it's still, I believe, within the time span, I need to double check that, of when it runs out. But anyway, that's my driving licence. And it's very ancient. But you'll notice on the driving licence, my name, well, you won't notice it, but I notice it, and if you look at yours, is all in capital letters. Same on my passport. This is an old passport. It's actually expired. I need to get a new one, but I haven't got a new one. But again, if I look in here, my name on the bit with the picture is all in capital letters. It's all in capital letters. It's funny that, isn't it? Now, that capital letters of your name, your forename and your surname, That is the legal fiction. It's not you, because you, as I keep going on and harping on about this, you are flesh and blood. But the church needed you to be on paper so that they can deal with you in lots of different ways. And you become effectively a slave at that point. You are now a bit of paper, and they can control you. And you think when they call your name or they see your name in this capitalization that they are referring to you, the man or the woman, the flesh and blood. But of course, that's not really the case. And as Shakespeare said, all the men and women are merely actors. The world is a stage and the men and women are merely actors. And that's what we're like. So in effect, the flesh and blood version of you, the real you, the spirit that inhabits you in this cloak, this meat suit, as often people refer it to, you're like the agent, if you like. You're the agent of the actor, which is on the bit of paper, on these documents, because these aren't you, and the bit that has your name on it isn't you, but you're the agent, if you like, of this actor. And an agent will get the actor jobs and will say, oh yes, this actor here represented on a bit of paper, I can get him, he will agree to do the film or the play or whatever it is you want, he will agree to do it. And so that's a way to think about this legal fiction, that you are the agent, you're effectively the executor of this legal fiction's estate. Because when you're born, as it said, they wanted to create a birth certificate. So they needed you to be on this flat earth, this flat plane as a name. And so then you think that's you throughout your life. But it isn't you, because you're real, you're flesh and blood, you move about. A piece of paper can't do anything. And so they use this birth certificate and you register, you give away your title so your entitlement to certain things. They give that all away when you register things. When you get married, you think that actually that your marriage certificate is there really to sort of to prove you got married. Well, it is, but you're effectively giving away all these things. Every time you register anything, you're giving away the fact that it's yours. It's no longer yours, you've given it to the government. Same with children. When you register the birth and you inform the registrar and you say, the mother says, yes, I did have this baby, you effectively give away your children to the state, which is why they can come back at some point and say to you, I'm sorry, we don't like the way you're bringing up your children. We have a problem with you. We are going to take them from you because the government own them. So what you have to do with all these things is say, actually, that's not right. I am going to claim as the agent of this legal fiction, as the executor, I am going to claim my rights, because by rights it is your child. And you'll say, look, I'm sorry, there's been a mistake here, particularly because I didn't know, you didn't tell me that that's what registering was doing, that actually I'm going to correct that. This actor, this legal persona, this fiction on the bit of flat earth paper is not me. I am the executor of his estate. And as the executor in a trust, which is what has been formed, I am the beneficiary of that trust. I am the beneficiary. So those children I've registered are actually mine. There's only 3 points, 3 positions in a trust. There's the executor, there's a beneficiary, which has to be you, and then there's the trustee. But the 12 presumptions of law will say, we will presume that you will act as the trustee, the one responsible for paying everything, the one responsible for doing as you're told, rather than being the executive. And the presumptions of law will say, we will presume to be the executor and the beneficiary of your estate, of your stuff. And so you have to go back and say, no, thank you very much. That's not correct. That's not right. I am the executor. I am the rightful executor, the sole beneficiary of this legal fiction. I didn't set it up, you set it up, but you are the trustee. So I get to tell you what to do, and I want to have all these things back. We will go into this in more detail, but I just wanted to share this, that the world is flat, and that's how they do it.